Hello friends, today we will study about money and banks. Seems quite interesting. So let's begin. What is money? See, money is anything which the law says. By law, if government declares anything to be currency, that is the currency of the country. So anything that government declares, that is the law says, is money. Money is the most liquid asset and it is the common accepted medium of exchange. See, money is nothing but a medium of exchange, and when it is defined by law, so we know. So every person, even a small kids also, children also, they also know. These are 10 rupees, these are 20 rupees, and these are that. So that is being installed in their minds from the very beginning. So okay, now as a economics student, we should know that money is of many types. We have legal tender money, non-legal tender money. So legal tender money, as the name indicates, it is the money which can legally be used to make payments of debt or the other obligations. That is, the creditor is obliged by law to receive such money in payment of debt due to him. That is, we are obliged to receive that if our money is due on someone, and if that person returns us in the form of legal tender money, then we will accept it. But the other form is that non-legal tender money, which is also known as the optional money. If a person gives you cash, you will easily accept it, but it is on your acceptance, it is your will that you accept the check from him, you accept the bank draft from him. That is your choice. So that is why this non-legal tender money is known as optional money. That is, generally it is accepted, but legally one is not bound to accept it. And now in today's scenario, we don't want to go to the banks and all. So we accept the online transfer payments. So that is means money is being transferred, but we generally we avoid, or we escape from the bank drafts and checks, because for that we have to go in the bank personally, physically we have to go, and then we can uh, do means whatever we want to do with that. So this legal tender money and non-legal tender money, so this is clear. So legal tender money comprises of paper notes, coins, while the non-legal tender money, that comprises of checks, drafts, bills of exchange, that. Now this legal tender money also is just for simplification, it is simply known as unlimited legal tender money, unlimited legal tender money. See, if you have to pay 10 rupees for to someone, you can give the coins. Okay, it's obvious we give a coin, 5 rupees coins, or 10 rupee coin. But if we have to give to someone the 1000 rupees or 500 rupees or other higher amounts, we will avoid these coins because there will be much work to do with them. So this is limited legal tender money. These coins are limited legal tender money, that is, for small transactions we can use them. And this unlimited legal tender money is the currency notes we are using. So notes are acceptable when the transactions is of higher amount. So now we are clear with four terms: legal tender money, non-legal tender money, unlimited and limited legal tender money. Now another term is that near money. Near money, near means which we have with ourselves. Near money comprises of those financial assets which are not as liquid as coins or currency notes, but they can easily be converted into money for paying the debt. That is, these are non-legal tender money. Okay, if we have checks, if we have our fixed deposits, if we have our NSCs, national saving deposits, so we can means that money is with us. Okay, we can go in the bank or post office and we can get hold of it. So this is known as near money. Now, full bodied money. Full bodied money is actually a concept of before times, means for example, in British times we were having coins of silver. Okay. So that coin was, that value was assigned such that the weight of that silver coin, if we melt it and if we sell it, we will get how much value? The value which is being written over it. Means if we have a 5 rupee if we have a 5 rupee coin of silver, then that value of silver is also 5 rupees, means equal to that commodity value. When it comes to in calculating its commodity value or the intrinsic value, that is equal. That is face value and intrinsic value. Silver coins face value which is written, and the intrinsic value which we get after melting it and selling it, both are equal. So that money was called full bodied money. Now if I ask you that you have paper note, you have a 2000 rupee note, but as a paper, if you crush it and that paper, if you are going to sell, that is not even of a single rupee. So this intrinsic value of that currency note is far less than its face value. So these are the credit money. These are credit money. That is, the money value is greater than commodity value. Money value is greater than commodity value, or we can say the intrinsic value is far lesser than the face value. One topic also we will study further in the next lessons. So then we will come to know about how this money and how it is assigned. Firstly, we were having the gold standard, then Bretton Woods system. So that all, okay, now it came to my mind. I'll make a lesson for it also. Okay, now our today's session, that is banking. Bank, see, this is just a primary level concept. Primary level concept is this one, that the children also know that we deposit in the bank, we deposit money in the bank, and we withdraw and we get interest, and sometimes we take loans from the banks and then repay the loans with interest. So this is the whole cycle of our banking process, the simplified banking process cycle. So what we are going to study in this is that in the banking process, where this market processes are being taken place, there are two types of banks. Okay, central bank and commercial bank. Central bank and commercial bank. So in India we have only one central bank, that is RBI, Reserve Bank of India. So it is the apex body, and what is its work? Its work is controlling, operating, regulating and directing the entire banking and monetary structure of the country. That is, it controls, operates, regulates and directs the entire banking structure. That is, it provides guidelines to commercial banks also, that how they have to maintain their reserves, maintain their interest rates, this and that. Okay, so this is the bank which deals with the government. It is owned and governed by the government, and it acts as banker to the government also at times when government requires money, or so this central bank is available to it then it is also known as the custodian of the foreign exchange reserves. See, that again, that comprises of that topic which I was talking before. See, foreign exchange reserves. We will study foreign exchange reserves also, but for the time being, we can just remember that these are the reserves which a country maintains. Specific amount of reserves or specific amount of money it holds with itself. So, foreign exchange reserves, their custody is with central bank. Then currency authority to declare what is currency and what is not currency. In demonetization also, notes were changed, the structure was changed. So that all was also in collaboration with RBI. Then we have these commercial banks. So this RBI is not dealing directly with the people, but this commercial banks are dealing directly with the people. They are dealing with the provisions of finance and credit system, loan system, and that they promote what regional development. So we have a central authority, but branches are to be spread. Okay, so this maintains the balanced regional development, and it helps consumers also in taking loans, in maintaining the credit balance, and this and that, where to invest and how to invest, that all functions. Now these banks have assets and they have liabilities. Now if we see, we calculate the worth of a bank. How we calculate the worth of a bank? That is how much assets it have. Assets means the loans and the reserves. Loans and the reserves. Okay, pay attention. Loans and reserves. Okay, and liabilities are the deposits. Means if someone deposits, if we are depositing our money in the bank, we deposit because we think it is there safe and secure, and when we will require it, we will withdraw it. So that deposit are liabilities on the banks. So the net worth of bank is calculated as asset minus liabilities. Now we will see how these assets comprises of reserve plus loans, or how our banking structure means how our bank functions. Okay. This is from NCERT again. So we will study how the money multiplier process, or how the money is being maintained in the banks. Very simple example is given here, so I have taken this only. We have deposit in bank. Suppose we have a deposit of 100 rupees. We have a deposit of 100 rupees. Then there is a required reserve. See, in all the banks, there is a required reserve ratio, or we can say a reserve, which we have seen before also, that is to be maintained by them. It is the legal requirement and is binding on the banks, that they have to maintain a reserve of money with themselves. Okay, they can't be means that they can't lend all of their money at once. So this, if the reserve requirement is 20 rupees, so bank has 100 rupees, it has reserve of 20 rupees, which is legally been determined by the RBI. Now loan, how much money it can lend? Now it can lend 80 rupees. So it has given 80 rupees of loan, and it has previously 100 rupees. Now it has 180 rupees. Now the balance, the deposit in the bank is 180 rupees. Then again the reserve requirement is 20% of 180, that is 36. Now again loan made by the bank is 64, means reserve requirement it will keep with itself 36, and loan it can lend money, it can lend rupees 64. Now we have these assets. We were saying that assets, loan plus deposit, so that were 180 rupees, that were 180 rupees. Okay, 80 plus that 100, so 180 rupees now became its assets, loan plus deposits. Now this 180 plus this 64, now it comes to be 244, and now again we have the 20% is the reserve requirement, so 48 it will keep with itself as a reserve, and again it will lend the money. Then at last, if we continue this process, many a times, we see that deposit in the bank was 500, reserve requirement was 100, and loan made by the bank were 400. So how we make the balance sheet of the bank? That is, we have reserves, that is 100 rupees, and we have deposit 100 plus 400 deposits. So now our assets were 100 rupees and liabilities were 500, 100 plus 400, because loans were of 400. So this loan plus reserve, that we are getting in the liabilities. Now we have total, so we can say these were 500 as 500 rupees we were having as assets, and liability also 500. So in this way, money deposited in the banks get multiplied, and this is the money multiplier process. So this balance sheet illustrates that bank can give loan of 400, that this bank can give loan of 400, and that currency plus deposit was 500. So money supply, then money supply is increased, and by how much it is increased? It is increased from 100 to 500. Now what we were talking about money multiplier, that is 1 upon cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve ratio, again I am telling, very important, and it is the reserve ratio which is the legal requirement, and it is binding on the bank that they have to maintain a certain percentage of deposits with itself. So that is the cash reserve ratio, and the inverse of cash reserve ratio, that is the money multiplier, and this question has been asked once in the examination. So we have to remember, in this case, in the case we have studied, our cash reserve ratio was 0.2. So our money multiplier was 5. So our money deposited was 100 rupees and it was converted to 500 rupees. So it was into 5 into 5. Okay, I suppose the picture gets clear to you. Okay, that's for today. Thank you.